Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be building a quadcopter, and this is going to be my motor testing quad because I'm using some of the best components I've found till this day. So some of the things here are prototypes, some things here I have not used exactly. For example, these motors. These are very cheap, supposedly insane motors. I've seen Quadbot's video of him flying it. They look pretty good. I don't know if it was these or different ones, but they were the Sporg X. They come in many different sizes and KVs. So for this build, we're going to be using the 2207 2400 KV. These are like $43 and they give you 5 motors, which is insane. Now let's just see how well they perform, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. So for frame, what I'm using is the Frog Lite. And this is not your ordinary frog. This is a 6-inch frog because I actually talked with Transdeck and I've gotten them to make me 6-inch arms for the frog. And I do have some of those at my shop. If anyone's interested in some of those arms, go ahead and check out the links down below. So we're going to be building a 6-inch version of the frog, which is going to be pretty sick. Now for receiver, I'm going to be using the frsky XM Plus. And the main components, what I am just dying to see, are the DalRc Engine with its flight controller. Now this thing has a 9-volt regulator on board, which cleans out almost basically everything, not almost everything. I've done a previous testing video, if you've seen it before, on a very crappy ESC, which was called the Solo Good. You can't even tell that you have shitty ESCs. However, flight characteristic, motor noise, you'll be able to hear that because they were terrible ESCs. But however, the video feed is absolutely ridiculously clean. So it's going to be a perfect feed here. And the DalRc Engine I've used before. It's on my favorite quad and it's a beast. And I've tested bench testing and I've done real world testing. And it's just an insane ESC. Alright, so that's what we're going to be using for the stack, which is a DalRc Engine stack. I do have some of those on my shop for absolutely cheap. They're on back order currently because they're just out of stock worldwide for like 10-15 days until DalRc gets their new batch manufactured. For camera, I'm using this. This was actually provided me by Banggood, and I want to use it. It seems pretty cool, seems pretty nice. It looks very good actually, and I really like the metal here, which reduces the chance of me ruining or stripping that shitty plastic casing on most of the cameras that come nowadays. So this is going to be pretty good. I really like this. I can't wait to try this one. For VTX, we're going to be using something a little bit different. I was going to use the what is it called? The AKK VTX. However, this one was provided to me by Hollybro, and this is a prototype of the AT Ladle. I think I'm pronouncing it right. V2. It has a microphone on board, so this is pretty interesting, I must say. I never really used the microphone, so that's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be pretty interesting. However, you know, I don't know, Hollybro. I think you should add the shielding. It's very important. For this quad, I don't think it's going to be that important because I don't think I'm going to have a lot of noise in it because it's just a perfect stack here. So this is going to be pretty interesting. I forgot its specs, but we'll get into the specs once we fly it. And yeah, that's really it. So enough talking. Let's start preparing everything. And I'm going to do this in a detailed video because a lot of people want to see details like in my older videos. So we're going to go ahead and set this up in super detail and just go over everything. So enough talking. Let me prepare everything and let's get started. All right, guys. First, we're going to go ahead and start preparing the 4-in-1 ESC. And this is going to be an absolutely simple and beautiful build. Just because of the stack and these pins here are going to just reduce our building time and keep it clean and lowers the risk of you burning or shorting something out, which is very nice, and I really love this. So we're going to go ahead and start by preparing the pads just to get that out of the way. I have to retouch some of these pads because I was testing it, and that's why you see some solder on it already. I had to test them. So we're just going to freshen these up a little and then just make sure not to burn the what is it called? The gummies. There we go. That's the word for it. So let's go ahead and just, there we go. Just going to retouch these a little. Be careful because these sink to the bottom here because they have holes. So if we flip it, we find it that it's flipped. So what I do is I hold it upside down and then I re-hit it and then it just sinks to the other side where I want it. So take that into consideration. This is very dangerous because if it's super low and you didn't notice, you can have both of these touch the carbon frame on the bottom if it leaks too much. As you can tell now, everything popped up. And you could short out everything. So take that into consideration. It's very important because I almost shorted my ultimate freestyle build like that. So that's how I figured out that, yeah, I didn't short it out. I almost did. But I was like, well, I'm putting so much solder. Where is it disappearing? So yeah, that's something good. So what I like to do is heat up the pad and just like slide off. And it keeps it very, very nice. And some people say I use too much solder. Some people say I don't know how to solder. But for me, it gets the job done. I'm not a professional. I'm not trying to be professional. I do what I know. That's it. All right. So some hints and tips. Always keep your forearms resting on the edge of the table. That'll keep your overall stability of your hands very nice. So there we go. We have a beautiful soldered, ready, super hot 4-in-1 ESC. Awesome. Let's put this to the side. Let it cool down a bit. Now this one's a little bit dirty. We're going to do the flight controller now. It's a bit dirty. It's because obviously I was testing it. So we're going to go ahead and clean these and then also retouch them. So what we're going to do, you have to be careful because some of these have holes. So you got to be pretty quick kind of. So what we're going to do here is just touch them like so. There we go. I'm going to do everything just in case if I wanted something. As you can tell, I'm just putting it on and then you see that? That's just beautiful. See, that sometimes works, but it doesn't always work. And I highly don't recommend doing this trick if you're new. But usually it doesn't need anything. You just that's it. You just put some solder and just start moving. And then it just goes into its place. I mean, and if you bridge it by accident, what you do is just keep heating it up and then pulling away. Heating it up, pulling away. That'll really help here. So this video, I'm trying to make it as full of information and useful information as possible. And at the same time, be moving as fast as possible. See, as we can tell, it's perfect. We got a bridged one. Now let's see how I go about fixing it. So there's bridged right there. These two are bridged right here. Let me just double make sure that the camera's in focus here. Okay. All right, let me just zoom out a little. So it could, yeah, there we go. All right, so we have these two that are bridged. What we're going to do now is I'm going to touch them together and then push away. Touch them together and push away. Clean up the tip. There's many techniques, but this is the one that works for me. So, and it's very simple. Look at that. I cleaned everything up. And it's very nice to also check it after. So right now it's pretty far away from me. So I'm going to pick it up. And I'm just going to take a quick look at it. Make sure nothing has bridged. And seems good. It seems nice. What is this? Yeah, it's good. It's perfect. So that's awesome. We got that done with. So we got these two done with. The VTX we really don't have to worry much about because it's going to be using a connector. We'll figure that out in a little bit. And here's our receiver, which we're using the XM Plus. And I really love this receiver. To be honest, it's the only receiver I buy. It's cheap and it works perfect. It's tiny. And for some reason, frsky decided to, conformal coat this. And this is the reason why they don't give you clear heat shrinks anymore, which I really hate. I still don't trust it without a heat shrink on it. I don't trust conformal coating. I do kind of trust it. It gives me some, I feel safer with it, but I know it does not remove any risk of shorting out or water damage or anything of that nature. So I really like to put heat shrinks on there. And I still can't find clear heat shrinks. And I'm just too lazy to order from eBay because it'll take a trillion years, or AliExpress. I know they're there. And yeah. So let's just take a quick look at the diagram because I still always forget. So the square is S-bus, as you could tell here, which is this top one. So the top one is S-bus, and then we have 5 volt and then ground. Okay, so we should try to remember that. S-bus, next to S-bus is 5 volt. The one on the edge is ground. All right, perfect. So we're going to be using some wires. We'll figure out what wires we're going to use here. I'm going to double check. Yeah, this is not a good one. So this is a... what do you want to say, salvaged Xt60 connector. I think I might just stick a heat shrink on there or probably get a new one. I don't know yet, but we'll figure that out as we go. So let me go ahead and prepare the wires. We're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go grab all the wires we need and start preparing them to install them on the flight controller. What I like to do is I like to install the wires for the receiver, the camera, and the VTX. And then I would put the 4-in-1 ESC into the quad and then put the motors and start soldering that in. So when this comes in, it's pretty much ready. I don't have to work on it inside the quadcopter. So let me prepare the wires, bring all the wires that I'm going to need here, and let's take it from there. Alright guys, so let me show you the technique what I use to prepare wires. Now I found these silicone wires which I'm going to use for the XM Plus radio. So what I like to do here is since they're silicone, it's very nice. You could just pinch them even though I don't even have nails, as you can tell right there. I like to pinch it and then just pull. And then next thing you know, it's already stripped, which is very nice to see here. So as you can tell. And then what I like to do is I just go ahead and wrap it. Just, go ahead and twist the wire. And then prepare the solder, just sticking up off the table like this. And then I just hold the wire to the tip. And I just move towards the solder. And next thing you know, our wire is just soldered and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare all the wires. We're going to skip this. So this is a technique I'm going to use for all the wires and preparing all the wires. And we're going to come back and see where everything goes. So give me a moment and I'll be right back, guys. Alright guys, so the first step, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prepare the receiver here with the correct wires. And I did find some silicone wires, so we're just going to go ahead and prepare the pads here real quick. So as I remember, this was ground, the farthest one out. The middle one was the 5 volt and the square was the S bus. So there we go. Alright, so I have 3 colors: green, red, and black. So obviously I'm going to use green for S bus. That's just my preference because red and black are always power usually everywhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and shorten this out a little bit. It's a little bit too long here. So there we go. Alright, so we're just going to put this right here on S bus. Make sure the tip is clean. Always make sure the tip is clean because this will be a pain to fix here. It's right next to a microcontroller unit right there. So we don't want to touch that either. So I'm just double checking the correct orientation. It's a little bit far from me. That's why I'm struggling here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to, there we go. That's even better. There we go. All right. So there we go. We got S bus in. Now we said the second one was 5 volt from the manual here. And then the last one, the farthest one, was the ground. So there we go. And then this one is going to be ground here. All right. All right, now our receiver is pretty much ready here to be installed. So we're going to move this off to the side. We're going to bring in the flight controller now. And we have our wires for both VTX and for the camera here. Now the camera here has this OSD wire popping out. I'm just going to keep it on for now. This thing can control the camera's OSD, but we're going to keep that for a later separate video. I think it would be a lot better. And that's what I'm planning on doing, which I think is a lot better. So another nice thing to do is twist these together like so. They would end up sticking together and it makes it overall very nice and clean. So let's go ahead and start setting it up. So let's find VTX. Where's VTX? Right there. VTX, which is the yellow line. And then this is going to be the power, which is going to be taking from the 9 volt regular, as you can tell, because the 9 volt is bridged, which this one will be the power. Let me bring a, there we go. All right. So this is the yellow wire right here, and this is the power for the VTX, and this is ground. And these are, I think TX6 and TX5 and RX5 we could use for smart port. Now I forgot which one the is ATLATO is using, if it's using the tramp protocol or smart port or whatever. What we're gonna figure out soon. So let's go ahead and start with the VTX. Oh, you know what? Let's start with the ground, the farthest away. It's always easier, so I can work my way in. All right. So here's ground for the VTX. So let's go ahead and prepare this ground. Or should I say solder? All right, that's in. What's next? Power. So it's going to be the red wire. Okay, and I'm actually soldering on the camera wire currently. So there we go. These are the wires we need. All right. So we said we're going to start with ground here. Make sure I'm recording everything. All right, so there's ground. So let's just go ahead and set it in place. And like I always say, just make sure your forearms are resting on the table's corner. So this way you get better stability on your hands for soldering. There we go. And yellow. This is VTX. So we're going to come back for this extra wire for the VTX. This is to control the VTX. Now, I don't remember if it goes on a TX or a RX. Now, I know the Maytag goes on a TX port, but this one, I'm pretty sure goes on a TX port also. You know what? Let's set it up on a TX port. I'm pretty sure because TX is transmit. So there we go. It's on TX5 now, UART5. And then what you want to do is just go ahead and wrap this up and make it nice and clean. And do a little tug on it. Not too hard to rip off the pads, but just enough to make sure everything is pretty secure. So that's very nice. Nothing's hanging, nothing's touching. Beautiful. All right, so we just finished the VTX. It was that simple. Now let's go ahead and grab our camera wires, and we're going to go ahead and take a look here. So on the camera, you have something called cam and FCam. So if you take a look here, this is FCam. This is to control the camera's OSD. We're going to be doing this in a later tutorial, but we're not going to use this now. We're going to use cam, power, and ground. However, I bridged the 5 volt to the camera because I prefer to give it 5 volt because I just don't want to overstress it. Plus, it's more efficient overall, you know. You can save a couple milliamps here and there. So we're going to start with the farthest, which is ground here. As you can tell, it's right there, ground. So make sure not to hit the gummy and just ruin its overall gumminess properties. So yeah. All right, and then it's power, which is going to be this guy. It's getting a little bit, there we go. All right, something just fell. Okay, that's in good. And then cam, right here. So a little heads up about this flight controller. Now, if you do not use this with it, you have to provide this flight controller with battery voltage and a 5 volt, or else, you know, you're going to have issues. So there's a 5 volt in here somewhere. Where is it? So you have to give it 5 volt in to power it up and battery voltage. So the battery voltage will give power to the 9 volt regular and the 5 volt will give battery to everything else. So here we have our camera installed, our VTX installed. And now what we need to install is one last thing here, as I believe, yeah, just one last thing. And it is our receiver, and that's what fell. All right. So here's our receiver. It's pretty much all ready. So let's see where we're going to put this. Now, this is S-Bus, okay? So S-Bus, this is frsky S-Bus. So it's inverted. So it has a special pad for it. But if you're using I-Bus, you have to avoid the pad that I'm going to use. So currently what I have to use, since I'm using an inverted S-Bus signal, is that RC pad right there. Now, if you're using an I-Bus, what you want to do is you want to go to an RX pad, anything. RX2, one that's not used. And then you would set that up in Betaflight to be your receiver, your serial RX port. All right, so these are a little bit too long here. So I'm just going to trim some of these off. Okay. And all right, that's perfect now. All right, so let's see where it goes. So we have our RC, which is this pad here, and a 5 volt and a ground. So we're going to do ground, power, and then S-Bus. Ground, power, S-Bus. Now, if you're using I-Bus, you'd go ground, power, and RX2. I think that's RX2. Yeah, RX2. But here we're going to be setting it up like so, these three. So ground, 5 volt, and then S-Bus. So let's start with the ground, which is the black we set it up. And it's going to be on this bottom one here. Alrighty. Beautiful. Awesome. And then 5 volt, which is the red wire. Make sure I'm in focus, I think. Okay, beautiful. All right, just double check everything. All right, there we go. So I have a very small screen on the camera, so I really can't tell if I'm in focus. I can see that I'm partially in focus, I think. There we go, and our receiver is installed. Now our flight controller is basically done. Look how clean that is. That's it. Just 3 things you have to install on this guy. Look, and just the wires are all hanging out now. So very nice, very beautiful. And all you have to do is just connect it here now, and with the pins, and you're good to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install the 4-in-1 ESC inside the quadcopter, which is very basic. And I'm going to go ahead and install the motors. But I'm not going to solder anything. I'm just going to go ahead and skip over this. Just putting the motors into place here. And then put this into place. And then take it from there. We start soldering up the motor wires. And then we connect it all together. And we're done. That's it. It's that simple. I mean, that took 8 minutes, as I can see it right there on my camera. But yeah. Alright, so let me go ahead and prepare everything. And then we'll take it from there, guys. Alright guys, so the motors are installed and I've gone ahead and set up heat shrinks here, and I've cut them to length with this edge, as you can tell right here. Now I could cut the wires, but the reason why I'm not going to cut the wires and make it super clean is because this is going to be our motor testing quad, and I might give these away, I might sell them for cheap, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, or I might put them on another quad, but this is the reason why I'm not cutting the wires. Thus we'll keep a little extra wire, so don't go ahead and complain, "Ew, why the hell did you keep them so long, it's so ugly now." So that's one thing, and I already soldered in the Xt60. I thought I was recording, but it turns out I wasn't. So let's go ahead and do one motor together. Now it doesn't matter what motor wire you put at the current moment of time, because we could just switch it in BL Heli. So let's just go ahead and set up one motor here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I get it pretty much straight leveled here. So let me just move these out of the way, just like this, as you could tell here. So it's going to be going just straight, and then you'll see how it's going to form after we stick this on. So let's just go ahead and install this motor wire. Okay. All right. That was pretty hot. So what we're going to do is, once the heat shrink's in place, this will go down like so, and thus keeping it pretty nice, kind of ish. That's because the motor wires are going to have to stay long here. So let's go ahead and do one motor together, and I'm just going to skip the rest because it's the same process for all, and then we'll take it from there. Basically, we're done after this step here, by the way. After we install the motors, we're done because we already did everything else. All we have to do is just plug in the flight controller and we're good to go. It's that awesome. Alright, so as you can tell here, I bridged them. Whoa, that was insane. I barely touched it, it flew off, and it just launched solder everywhere. So sometimes I actually think of wearing eye protection, because sometimes a wire could flick the hot solder off of it and just go flying, which is pretty dangerous actually if it goes into your eye. I almost had that happen to me a couple times actually. So there we go. We have these installed. It's not the prettiest, but that's fine because this is going to be our motor testing quad, and we could always figure out a way to arrange these and once we have them all installed. As you can tell here, it's looking kind of nice now. So they go in kind of pretty nice. So we'll see once it's all complete how it's going to look. As you can tell, the heat shrink, I still have not shrunk it just yet, just in case if I need to do any other modifications. Make sure nothing is bridging or nothing close to bridging. And yeah, just make sure you take your time here. So let me go ahead and finish the rest of the motors. We'll come back and see how we're going to put this whole thing together here. Alright guys, so the motors are installed in place and they look absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this thing looks just super crazy. So let's go ahead and, so as you can tell here, there's something very important I didn't mention in the beginning. I had to replace the screws that hold the flight controller in place. These came with the what is it called? The DalRc Engine here. They're very long metal screws that go all the way through, which is what we really need because there shouldn't be any standoffs between these two. And that's what's going to happen here. So now what we're going to do, all we have to do is install this guy here. And okay, that's it. And we're just going to do a little push here once we get some standoffs. So we're just going to push down a little bit. And we're going to make sure that the as you can tell, the ESC's gummies are a little bit more, what is it called? A bit more mushy or softer than the flight controllers. And that is so you could push this down like so. All right. And then we're going to push it down there. Just be very gentle with this, like very gentle. Currently the microphone's kind of away from me, so I hopefully the audio is good. I'm trying to do this as best as possible. Okay. So this seems very nicely set up here. Really nice. Like I really like this. It's going to be, yes, very good. All right. So the next step is going to be just installing this guy. Now let's just double check if everything fits actually. I haven't even done that yet. All right guys, so it seems as if everything is fitting perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stick this through here. And the AT ladle does come with the required things here, but it doesn't come with that rubber dampener, but we really don't need it. So let's just go ahead and set this up. Okay. I think it's backwards. This has to go here. Okay. And then we're going to set this up like so. Bring in this little washer thingy. And then install this guy. Alright. So I'll tighten this up later on. Make sure you always tighten these. Alright, so now our VTX is installed. Very nice and clean. So let's just see if we can remove it now. Well, there we go. Awesome. So this is how I want it to be installed here. So let's go ahead and grab some hardware. Alright guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install the camera here. As you can tell, I just put one screw into the adapter for the Foxeer here. One screw here, one screw there. We don't need more. This will also reduce the weight. And I don't see the reason to put more than one, to be honest, on each side. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and set this up the way we want. We could have it, we're just going to have it right dead center here. And something very important to take note of when you install these cameras, make sure you have it in the correct orientation, because there's nothing worse than figuring that out in the field. Well, actually for this, it's not really a bad idea. It's not really that bad because the ease of access and the way to go ahead and, you know, access whatever you want from the inside is very good. So let's just see here. Do we have this? All right, so it's not tightening in, so I don't know why, but I don't want to tighten it too much to start pulling the aluminum standoffs into place. So we're just going to keep it loose for now, and then we're going to figure it out in a little bit once we install it in. All right, now I found it. All right, so let's go ahead and see the receiver here. So here's our receiver right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this clear heat shrink through and shrink it. Now it's a little bit too big, so I'm probably going to cut it like right there. So if you see that, about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch maybe, or even less possibly. So I'm going to trim some off, like about that much, with my super crazy cheap scissors. Alright. Actually, they weren't cheap, to be honest. I got them from Tesco. Tesco, I think, overprices stuff. Alright, so what we want to do now is we want to shrink it. So let's go ahead and shrink this guy. Come on, buddy. It's so satisfying to watch this, really. Like, I really love this. Alright. Awesome. Now I feel much better to wherever I place this guy. Just a lot better. Because I think we're going to probably place him under the ESC here. Or probably double-sided tape behind the camera. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to have to figure that out right now. So let's just go ahead and see this maybe. Let's start plugging in everything. So here we have our camera. Okay, we have that little extra wire there. Okay, so they're pretty long. I really like that. Sometimes it's very annoying. Okay, so that's in. We're going to put our VTX in also. As you can tell, my VTX doesn't have screws on the back. It's because it'll hit the aluminum piece right here. I could drop the stack down a little bit more, but I really don't want to push it too much. There we go. All right, so that's in. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to have this wrap on the outside like this. And then, actually, you know what? The receiver can be just, we could just double-sided tape it, just double-sided tape right there, and have the boot button like sticking out a little bit. So like we could just set that up like just on an angle if we wanted to, really. So that's very good. All right, we'll set that up later on. Let's just go ahead and put this guy together. Yeah, just double-sided tape right there. That's what I'm gonna do after I make sure everything is running. All right, so everything is falling into place nicely. I think so. Okay, so just align my holes here. I'm feeling a little bit of resistance, and that resistance is normal. It's from the pigtail, and I'll show you that in a little bit right now. But let's go ahead and start installing the screws here so we can get an idea of how well this came out, and we can start heat shrinking the okay, so this is not in. There we go. Okay, so that's in. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's in. I don't want to tighten them too much right now. Just want to get an idea of what's going on in there. Overall, I mean, it's coming out very nice. It was a hell of an easy build, like really easy. Not as easy as something like the Racerstar Sporg F4S, but this is like a premium freaking setup, like an absolutely gorgeous setup here. So I really am in love. So this is going to be a proper motor testing quad. Only with motors with long wires. So yeah, everything's fitting perfect. I'm not having to fight anything. Okay, I don't want to tighten them too much just yet. Just a little, just to get an idea of what's going on. Alright, take a look at it. Oh, this camera's massive. Alright, so I'm going to do just tighten the camera now. I don't want to tighten one side too much. So we're going to tighten this side too now. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. That's very nice, actually. Very nice. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is heat shrink the the heat shrink, obviously. And we'll see how that's gonna look like. So yeah, the motor wires are long. I know don't give me shit for this. I left them long on purpose here because this is a motor testing quad. And yeah. Oh shit. We have one of the motor wires going through the back there. That's why it just came out all weird. Hopefully we didn't squish it too much. No, we didn't even squish it. That's good. Alright, so I'm gonna have to fix that. The wire management seems pretty nice. I could have made the wires a little bit smaller. And yeah. So yeah, it's pretty heavy actually. So it looks overall looks pretty sick. So let's go ahead and heat shrink this thing. Alright. Okay. So this is 150 degree heat shrink, but I have it set to like 262 because I just do. So we're just gonna shrink this guy here. Make sure you get both sides here. Top and bottom is very important. So these I could have just, while it's still hot, I could kind of straighten them out inside, make it look a little bit better. But it's totally fine because, like I mentioned, we're going to be removing these anyways, since this is going to be a motor testing quad. So since I lost the older one, so this one should be in theory a pretty proper one actually. Okay, so that's pretty damn hot actually. Basically like melting. Alright, so that's pretty much set and done. Now, I don't know why the hell these heat shrink curved into this kind of structure, but that's totally fine because I'm going to use tape anyways, black tape around this to hold them in place. And overall, it's absolutely gorgeous, but the heat shrink killed it for me. But that's totally fine, as long as they're protected, and we're going to use tape. But overall, it feels pretty damn heavy for some reason. Let's see how much it weighs. Moment of truth. There we go. Let's take a look at this. I don't know. I'm thinking. I really don't know actually. Let's see. 327 grams. Pretty heavy actually. 327 grams. So it's a 6-inch, and we're using 2207 2400 kV. So I could put 6-inch props if I wanted to. Which is going to be pretty nice. So this would be pretty good because we could test 5-inch props and 6-inch props, and it's a pretty heavy quad, which means we can get, you know, good results. We could figure out if the motors have torque or not to pick up this heavy. It's not even that heavy, but it's pretty heavy, this quad here. But overall, it's a beast. It looks like an absolute gorgeous beast. Now we're just going to have to wait until we take it out flying and seeing how well this performs, and also test out the camera because I've never tested this camera before. And yeah, huge shout out to Banggood for providing the camera here. So that's very nice. And yeah, well, that's it guys. So that's going to conclude it for this video. I'm going to do the final touches. It doesn't really need anything, but I'll do these the day before I go flying. Tomorrow I have a doctor's appointment for my wife because yeah. But yeah, so hopefully this week in the next couple days I'm gonna be flying a lot of quads, and prepared everything, and this is gonna be one of them. So just expect flight footage very soon, a lot of it too, since a lot of you are asking for flight footage. So this will be upcoming very soon, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I tried to put as much detail and keep it as fast as possible for you, and If you have any suggestions or any ideas on another build, let me know. We're going to build another quadcopter. It's going to be like a budgetish. It's going to be the Flycolor ESCs with the DalRc F405 all-in-one flight controller. But before that, I want to do a tutorial on the OSD camera control, and then we could build it. So yeah, before I put it into a quadcopter. But overall, this thing looks like an absolute beauty. The heat shrink killed it, but overall, I mean, it just looks crazy. It literally looks absolutely crazy. So can't wait to test this, and that's going to conclude it for this video, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Please consider joining my Patreon. You get a lot of awesome things and some cool secret access stuff, as well as giveaways. And you could also use affiliate links down below. Those greatly support the channel. Any support goes an absolute long way for the channel, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. See you guys. Take care.